So good morning. This is Tuesday, May the 10th. This is actually Better Hearing and Speech Month nationally, so you're in the right place. We are going to, let's see here, we are recording this. All right, but first, okay. I'm going to be sharing my screen. Okay, so this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube and search HLAA Mission Viejo Chapter. You could go to our website and click on the icon for YouTube and get right there. Our website is HLAAMV.org. Okay, just a couple of slides. Use the chat function for any technical support. Alan Kutsura is here. He's from the HLAA Diablo Valley chapter in Northern California. And I just appreciate so much that he helps me in my meetings, especially with technical support. So thank you, Alan. You want to wave for everybody? Yay, there he is. Okay. HLAA Mission Viejo does not endorse any single product or service. This meeting is intended to provide information, education, and support. We do have a sponsor. Our sponsor is Caption Call, and they sponsor our captioner that captions in real time for us. Our captioner is Jo Gale. She is in her office. That could be her bedroom. We don't know. In Chicago, Illinois. So we want to thank Jo Gale, and we really want to thank Caption Call, who provides captioning for your landline phone, iPhone, iPad. The new phones have Bluetooth capability. So if you have Bluetooth in your hearing aids, you can connect directly with the phones. That includes landline, iPhone, and iPad. And so if you're a person who struggles a bit on the phone, especially with accents, I recommend you call Caption Call because life is calling. 877-557-2227. Okay, little commercial. The Hearing Loss Association of America and the Mission Viejo Chapter is a 501c3 tax-exempt corporation, and we appreciate your donations, and depending on your tax status, they are deductible. Our chapter is all volunteer. No one receives any compensation, and we depend on your donations for support. And you can donate online at our website at HLAAMV.org. Okay. I am the president, Tony Buriant, and my email address, if you would like to contact me directly, is Tony@HLAAMV.org, and my phone number, you can text me or you could call me at 949-614-5307. All right. Oh, well, that's an old one. Okay, I think we're done. So today, this is Ask the Audiologist, and it was intended to be just kind of a free-flowing. You ask questions, and our audiologists are our support audiologists. These are our audiologists. I forget how I say that now.
Advisor.
But so Anne Mundell-Noel is here, and some of you know her. And Laura Hunt is here. They both work at Amazing Hearing, and they provide amazing hearing. So Great name, great name. And just to get started, and I do have one question to pose to you that was emailed in, and I will, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into the chat box so you guys can see it. In the meantime, we will get started. I will share their PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, thank you guys.
Tony, if you want to share your screen, Laura has it on our side. We could direct it if you'd like.
Oh, go ahead. No, I will allow you to do it so that you can control. Let me make you
co-presenter
so that she can share hers. If it didn't work, hold on. Okay, there you go. Did you get it? There you go.
Is everybody seeing the screen that says hearing in your brain?
I can see it.
Perfect. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to come together and talk about hearing aids, which whatever's on your mind. We do this all day long. And so for us, a lot of the information we feel our patients know. Yet it's amazing when patients will come back and ask some questions that seem very simple, but don't make sense. So what we want to do today is go over how hearing works, why we do what we do, and hopefully that will spark some questions for you guys to answer or to ask. Sorry. So go ahead, Laura. Let's switch. Sure. So basically, I'll go through the beginning part, and then Laura will go after that. But we have the sound that travels down the ear, right? It gets collected. It goes down the ear. The part that is collecting the sound. Do you want to? I think your next one. What do you? Sorry, we're going to learn our software here. Is it the next slide?
Maybe. Wonder why it's not going now.
Tony, we're not able to flip slides.
Yeah, it's weird. It just stopped.
Okay, well, so we're having a little technical difficulty. Alan, any suggestion on?
Okay, there is at the lower right-hand corner, there should be tiny little arrows going left and going right. Are you on the very bottom right-hand corner?
Yeah, so ours is up at the top when she gets the scroll bar.
Press the page up button, see if that works.
The up page. Yeah, so nothing, it's locked.
Oh man.
Okay, so if you'd like, we'll switch.
Go ahead. You can direct it.
Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay, and I will, boy, I hope I can do it because I do see that it's a little bit different. You know what happens is they do updates on
there we go.
all the time, and we don't get a chance to. All right.
This is mine. I'm not sharing anymore.
So it's working on our end when we're not sharing. The PowerPoint is. But while Tony is trying to get that to work, basically an overview of the ear is that the sound comes down into the ear and hits the eardrum. And what can cause issues with that? Wax is the biggest factor. So I would just like to ask, do you guys feel comfortable cleaning your ears with anything? Do people clean their ears? Do they not clean their ears? As audiologists, we get asked that question all the time. And I will tell you that we are proponents of preventative maintenance. So we think it's a good thing when you wear a hearing aid to keep that outer portion of your ear as clean as possible. So what that means is we suggest you take a Q-tip with a little container of hydrogen peroxide, and you dip the Q-tip into the hydrogen peroxide and swab your ear just where the hearing aid sits. So you don't have to go real deep into the ear, but the hydrogen peroxide will dissolve the wax, the dead skin that can clog your hearing aid. So we are strong proponents to say preventative maintenance helps. Where are we on our slides? Are we moving forward, Tony? Do you have control now?
Well, we'll see.
There we go. So the other thing to note about the outer ear and hitting here to the eardrum is that there is a ratio of 32:1 as far as the sound traveling down your ear. So it's important for the volume of the sound to keep the ear canal as clean as possible. I will tell you, when you wear hearing aids, the shape of your ear canal becomes important because we want to maintain a good seal in your ear for the hearing aid. One of the biggest things we are seeing that is an issue for the seal of your ear is people who are starting to have, or not starting, but have plastic surgery done. The plastic surgeons don't realize that when they pull the skin back, they are altering the shape of the ear canal, and we are having a very difficult time on a lot of patients, mainly women, who we are trying to get a tiny tip into their ear, and it's been an issue. So the main thing I want to say about that is the cleanliness of your ear canal matters, and the shape does matter. The next section that we're going to talk about is the middle ear, and that's just those three little bones that transfer the sound, but also that is where we want to keep the space as clean and working functionally as much as possible. So if you have sinus or allergy issues, it can affect your eustachian tube that runs down into your throat. So when you get a clogged sinus cavity, it can cause your eardrum to suck in, and it can cause pressure and pain in your ears. So that's kind of what the middle ear's function is, really just to transfer the sound. Over to the next section, which is the inner ear, and that's where all the sound takes place. All the movement, the electrical impulses take place is actually in the inner ear, the cochlea. And that's usually where we have our hearing loss. So the things that happened in the outer ear and the middle ear can oftentimes be corrected medically. You might have surgery, you might have wax removal, you might have some medical things that can be done. But when it comes to the inner ear, where the balance system and the hearing system are in the same bony structure, that is something that at this point is not medically correctable. And that's where most people have their hearing loss. And one of the things I want to comment on is I was just sent an article last week that researchers at MIT are working on regenerating the hair cells that have been damaged in this area. And they are starting to get some positive results where like a jellyfish or a starfish that regrows different parts of its body, or like our cells in the rest of our body that keep regenerating themselves, that has not happened in the inner ear. When you are born, you get what you get, and that's it. So this new research from MIT that just came out last week is huge. It's really encouraging that in the future, they might be able to do things like give you a shot or take a pill and somehow regenerate the hair cells in that inner ear. So that's really encouraging. And then if you want, the next diagram shows that hearing is really happens on both sides of our body. So Lauren, do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, I really like this photo because here we can emphasize the importance that when we hear, we really hear with our brain, but input does come in through both ears. And then once it gets past that inner ear portion that Anne was just talking about, it then travels, sends that information along auditory nerves to the brain. So we know, and more research continues to show how important the brain is at actually interpreting all the information, all the sounds that we hear. But when there is damage somewhere along the pathway of the ear, whether it's wax or sinus pressure or hair cell damage in that inner ear, well, then the information getting to the brain could be weakened or distorted in some way so that the message is not as clear to work with. But again, I like in this photo that we can emphasize that the brain is ultimately what is doing all the hard work on the back end to interpret speech, sound, music, whatever it is we are listening to.
And that's a great explanation. There was a question in the chat box from somebody saying that some words drop out of their conversation that they can hear, but then there becomes some missing sound. And what I want to emphasize is that the hearing aids are an aid. They're not a cure-all, right? So what we're trying to do with a hearing aid is we are trying to make up for the input that the brain is not receiving naturally and fully on its own. And so even if we structurally can give the sound back to the brain, it's still up to the brain to interpret it and make meaning of it and use it. So the idea behind hearing aids is that we are replenishing or giving back the brain the missing input, but the brain has to interpret it and use it. And how damaged the system is along the way determines how well the hearing aids can work. Does anybody have any questions on that portion of just the anatomy of the ear? Does anybody want to raise their hand? No? We're good with that? Okay. Tony, you want to go to the next photo? Or is that us? Oh, we're doing it?
Nope, she's got it. This is for us.
Tony, can you flip us? You're muted.
No, we had some arrows there.
Okay. So the arrows there were just pointing out that that transmission between the inner ear that collects the sound and makes the electrical impulses and the message that's sent up to the brain, it's called sensory neural, is the type of hearing loss that most people have. Sensory being the cochlea and then the auditory nerve. We don't know which of the two are really damaged. We just know it's that component of transmission that is often the issue as we age. The hair cells get damaged or the nerve gets damaged.
Alan has a question?
Yes. Okay, so you can measure the sound input into the eardrum through real ear measurement.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a way to tell how much of the information from there gets to the brain, to the auditory nerves?
So, good question. He's talking about real ear measurement, which is a test that we do when you're wearing a hearing aid. And basically what we do with real ear measurement is the hearing aid is on your ear, and we have a microphone in your ear at the very end of the hearing aid. And so what that microphone is picking up is it's measuring how much the hearing aid amplified the sound as it went down your ear canal. So Alan, we can measure what is being sent to the brain, but we cannot measure how the brain interprets it fully, if that makes sense. So by real ear, we can measure how much the hearing aid is properly set, how clear the message is being sent is not something that we can measure. We can only assess on the back end when we do word tests and understanding tests. That's how we determine how the brain is processing it. So just to kind of bring that around first full circle, if I give your brain all the sound it needs to hear the difference between chip and ship, chip and ship, I can give you that information. I can measure that the hearing aid did that. But if the brain is not clear enough, the signal is not clear enough when it was transferred, it might sound like chip on both of them, that there's not enough information for the brain to discern it, depending upon how the nerve is damaged. Does that make sense?
So to kind of go off of that, while there's no specific test like real ear, which is very objective, a very objective measurement, we can still do functional testing where with the hearing aids on the ear, if we present a word list where you repeat back what you hear, we can at least see, without hearing aids, maybe you got 40% of the words correct. Yet with the hearing aids on, and we know they're measured, maybe now you get 80% correct. So we have at least some way to verify there is improvement. Again, even if it's not perfect, it should be an improvement. So you can do some functional testing with the devices on.
And so a lot of people will ask, well, if I'm not getting a clear sound, if I'm not getting 100% of the sound in, should I buy a more expensive hearing aid or should I buy a less expensive hearing aid? And that's a great question. There's different schools of thought, but the one that we subscribe to is that we want to try to give your brain the cleanest, clearest signal to process. Because if we give the brain the best sound, then it's up to the brain to do the work. And we want the brain to work clearly and easily as well as it can. And so when we look at hearing aids, not all hearing aids are built the same. And even though Costco has their high-end hearing aid, their high-end hearing aid is about the 3rd to 4th level down of the quality of hearing aids we offer. And so we just want you to understand there is a spectrum when it comes to the quality of the sound. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But you really need to make sure you know what you're getting when you buy a hearing aid, because just because you paid a high price for it doesn't mean you're getting a good quality product.
Tony, will you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. And then maybe if you click again for me, I think it's going to provide or scroll through some information on the bottom of this slide. Maybe.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. I'm learning as I go along.
Thank you. But here, just trying to kind of go off of recognizing how important it is for our brain to hear the sound. If we don't hear the sound the way that we used to or the way that we should be, then of course it's harder to follow along in conversation. And sometimes people start to notice that effect only if there's background noise or only in groups of people, or it might start to affect them even in quiet situations with one-on-one speakers. But sorry, do you mind clicking through more of those?
There's 3 more, Tony, if you could click all 3.
Yep.
You want to keep going? There you go.
But if we don't hear as well, then of course it takes more effort to focus, to be able to hear and understand what is going on. And that is very tiring. And it can lead to not wanting to be a part of a conversation. Maybe you're catching part of it, but by the time you catch up on what was said a few sentences ago, now you're missing out on what's currently being said. So essentially, there are just many reasons why somebody, if you're not hearing well or appropriately, might feel more fatigue and need some extra help.
And you guys all certainly understand that. So, Tony, next one. Kind of preaching to the choir on that one. You'll keep going. So yep.
Oh, you're fine. So also things that, you know, in this group might already be well understood, but just to recognize what hearing loss can cause. It of course creates frustration when you don't hear someone as well as you would like to, and that not only affects you, but it affects the people around you, and they can also become frustrated trying to communicate back. And either party or both parties may want to stop that conversation because of high levels of frustration. But when we have hearing loss, because that inner ear also encompasses our balance system, we might have increased risk for falls or more problems with imbalance or dizziness in general. And then additionally, we know, especially in the last 10 years, research continues to support the link between untreated hearing loss and how it could have an effect on cognitive decline or early onset dementia. And so, again, going back to the brain, if our brain does not hear how it should or what it should be hearing, it can get lazy, and that is where it can be a component in contributing to those early onset dementia symptoms. Yeah, Tony, I see your hand is raised.
You're speaking about untreated hearing loss. Could this also apply to people who have hearing aids and don't wear them? And I'm thinking particularly of people who don't wear them at home. So they think it's, you know, it's just like putting on their sports jacket or their coat or their sweater, and they put them on when they go out, but not when they're at home. So can you address that?
Yeah, that's a great point. Unfortunately, we do have patients that will say exactly that. They will wear their hearing devices kind of as needed, based on, well, now I'm going to go speak with friends or be in social situations, so now I need to wear them. But because of the link between hearing and our brain, we actually need to be wearing hearing devices all waking hours as much as we are able. It's kind of like going to the gym. You can't go here and there and maintain strong muscles. We need to have a continual routine in order to stay strong. So similar with our brain, we need to keep the auditory stimulation consistent so that it can do its best job to make sense of sound, so that it can get the most benefit from hearing aids that it can, and to keep it active essentially. And so even when you're at home and it's quiet and you're reading a book, we still want your hearing aids on, because there are subtle environmental sounds that you're hearing. You're picking up the refrigerator or birds chirping outside your window, or somebody calls or rings the doorbell. But yeah, it's important to wear them all the time, even when you're home alone, you're not in speech situations. Keep the brain stimulated and active.
And the other thing I would just add on to that is when you're home by yourself and people go, oh, I don't need it, I'm okay. What we don't realize are our ears are a sense of security. We actually need them more when there's nobody around us, because now we have to be on high alert. We have to know what's happening. Did the postman just drop off a letter? Why is the dog barking? You can't just go, oh, I'm going to go put them on. So it's really a sense of security. So what I would say to that is, I don't think that the study has been done yet about part-time wearers of hearing aids, Tony, to go back to your original question. But what we do know is that the more you wear them, the better you get with them, the better you do with them, the better the brain is. On the converse side, if somebody doesn't wear their hearing aids and has them, my question would be, why? Is it because you think you don't need them? Or maybe they're not set properly? Because I don't know of anyone who would like to spend money on a product that they didn't use, right? So most times when patients come into our office and have hearing aids, they're usually not set properly. And so by even taking a very good quality product, if it's not set properly, they don't use it, or they only use it sporadically. So we would encourage you to make sure that you're happy with them, that you know that they're benefiting you, and they will serve you much better.
Thank you. Next slide.
And we'll kind of pass over the next two slides, which are kind of the Landslide Journal on Dementia. We've kind of gone through that, just again, kind of affirming the study to say that improving your hearing is one of the #1 factors you can do to help prevent cognitive decline. And that makes sense. We've kind of gone through that. I want to kind of get to some of the other signs. We can go through this one. We already talked about hearing loss. When we see the common signs of hearing loss.
Sorry, Tony, if you go one more slide, please.
One more? Okay.
Thank you.
And we can even kind of go past this one as far as clicking again. We already know all these things, so let's just kind of go quickly through this. We already know the signs of hearing loss. But what we did want to talk about is ringing in the ears, tinnitus or tinnitus. Both pronunciations are correct. But this is often a sign of people who have ringing in their ears, is often an initial sign of hearing loss. So people might not feel like they have hearing loss, but they'll say, oh yeah, I've got ringing in my ears. Usually that's a sign that the brain is not getting a complete signal. And if we were smart and listened to our bodies, we would maybe do something about hearing loss earlier rather than waiting. And the reason I bring this up of the ringing in our ears is because of over-the-counter hearing aids, right? Those are something that people are talking more about. the majority of people that go and try to get over-the-counter hearing aids are because they are starting to notice ringing in their ears, and they are understanding that might be a beginning sign of hearing loss. And so they're seeking something out that might be kind of like a starter hearing aid. And we're all for that. I mean, over-the-counter hearing aids are like peeper glasses. They have a place in the industry. The problem is the studies show that most people underestimate their hearing loss. So they think it's only a mild or beginner loss when they are looking at over-the-counter hearing aids, and it's actually more of a mild, moderate, more significant hearing loss. And the over-the-counter hearing aid, they've already kind of overstepped that boundary. They need something more. But the reason we wanted to talk about the ringing in the ears is to let you know, as audiologists, we're licensed to test and treat it. So if you know people who complain about it, your medical doctor will probably tell you there's nothing that can be done. And there's nothing further from the truth. We have many patients, younger ones, who are now coming in with ringing in their ears, and we are able to help them. And one of the products that we have is the sleep pillow. And basically what you do is you slide it in under your pillow, you put your head down, and now you can hear sounds in your ear, and you don't disrupt your partner who might not want to hear other sounds. Because for most people, silence makes their tinnitus worse. Because it's quiet, they focus on it. So just, does anybody have any questions regarding tinnitus or what we've talked about? Many hearing aids do have a tinnitus program in them that can be activated. So for most people, by putting the hearing aid on, the tinnitus goes down or often goes away because the brain is getting that complete signal again. But for those people that that's not enough, there is actually a program that can be put in your hearing aids to help with that. And as audiologists, we are licensed to test it and treat it. So this one is just talking, we kind of went through this too, about untreated hearing loss and keeping our brains fit. Tony, if you want to go through the next one. Where you want to talk about how new technology is helping people?
Sure. Yeah. So of course, hearing aids and hearing aid technology is always trying to improve upon itself. In the past 5 years or so, I would say there have been several advancements that have been beneficial for most users. Including, being able to connect with Bluetooth to other devices. So very common now that people with their hearing aids can connect to their cell phone or use the device to also connect and stream to their television. So just alongside having a better sound quality as they try and improve the computer chip technology in the hearing aid for processing sound, we start to see all these other added benefits that, again, most people can really utilize and further improve their hearing abilities. One of the main things technologically that they're always trying to improve is hearing in background noise, which is consistently the most challenging place for people to hear. And so while hearing aids cannot yet replicate the brain's natural ability to filter out noise when it is noisy, the hearing aids now try to keep background noise where it is, keep it level, and then pull speech levels louder than the background noise. And different brands might approach that in different ways. So we do find that certain technology is better at that than others, but But yeah. And then some other nice features, of course, a lot of people, when they get the hearing aids that go behind the ear and have that wire coming down, they can get rechargeable devices, which is just much more convenient for several people, whether it be because their dexterity is poor, they cannot manipulate a small battery. So now they just insert and remove the device from a charger.
And just adding on to that, as far as the technology, you guys are very aware of all of these things, but just how it works in real life, I'm going to give two quick examples. One of them is we have a patient who's blind and has a severe hearing loss. Now, because of technology, he can say, "Hey Siri, call Tony." And without him being able to have to look at his phone, he can now have the phone dial, take the phone call right into his ears, have a private conversation because it is going right into his hearing aids, and he can survive even though his wife isn't around to dial the phone for him. And, you know, he's got a private conversation. So it's amazing how the technology is working that way. Another example is yesterday, I did a telehealth appointment with a couple that's in Alabama. I fit them with hearing aids here. They went home to Alabama. The electricity was out at their house. And so they went to a parking lot at Walmart, connected to the internet, and I was able to adjust their hearing aids while they sat in their car in the Walmart parking lot. Okay, now that is today's technology, just way up here, right? And a lot of that happened because of COVID. It propelled telehealth in the audiology department by about 6 years. So just know it's the advances are amazing. And again, our goal is just to try to make them work for you. Everybody's got a different need, but the technology really is getting so much better. Two people got their hands raised.
Alan and Tony?
Go ahead, Alan.
There you go. Who's going to go?
Okay, I guess I'm going to go first. So while we're talking about all the new technology, there's still something to be said about old technology, like the telecoil.
Amen. Yep. So talking about the T-coil, I'm so proud of Tony of getting the T-coil put in at the Performing Arts Center. So that is a huge, huge thing. I'm also, Alan, you brought that up. The guy who, Tony, I'm blanking on his name right now. Yeah, Rick Archibald. He just finished looping rooms for Netflix up in LA, 80 business offices. So even though the older technology of a T-coil seems outdated, it isn't traceable like Bluetooth is. And I think we're going to start to see a resurgence of the T-coil in other venues. But basically, what Alan was pointing out is that most of you are familiar that the T-coil is in your hearing aid. It does allow you to connect wirelessly to your television if you have a loop in your home, which is very inexpensive to do. But another way to transfer the sound and give you a clear signal, especially with a lot of the churches in our area. We have quite a few, and Tony's getting more and more of the clubhouses looped. So a great technology.
My question is really going back to what we see on the screen here, because what we see on the screen here and on your PowerPoint, we see 2 hearing aids in a rechargeable device. And as great as technology is, I've already been contacted or stories have been told to me from people that have rechargeable hearing aids. And they are wonderful, and they do save a lot of time. They save from fumbling with batteries and all of that. But if you're a person that goes out in the morning and comes home late at night, your hearing aid is very likely going to run out of juice. And you're stuck until you put those puppies back into the the recharger. So, yes, Laura,
Yeah.
I can tell you're just wanting to answer that. Go.
Go. Yeah, no, that's a great point. There are multiple factors that will contribute to how long the batteries last per day. So currently, all main manufacturers have switched to what's called a lithium-ion rechargeable battery, which is much more effective or much efficient, yes, thank you, than prior rechargeable battery options. On average, this type of battery should last at least 16 to 20 hours a day, but it can last longer. She's totally surprised. If you have a very severe hearing loss, or if you're in a lot of background noise often, those are two things where the hearing aid has to put forth more battery than someone with a very mild hearing loss in a quiet environment. So it can run down the battery faster depending on your loss. And so your provider hopefully can give, specifically per patient a recommendation in that regard. But also it does matter how much you stream with the Bluetooth. So somebody who works and they're on the phone, 8 hours a day, and they're streaming for 8 hours, well, their battery will die sooner in the day than somebody who's not utilizing that feature, because it's, again, taking more power to be able to use the Bluetooth streaming and will run battery faster.
The other part of that is that now 3 hours gives you a full charge. So you could put your hearing aid in the charger for a half hour while you take a shower, and then you would have an extra 3 to 5 hours at night. But it is a concern, and we do bring that up. Also, if you're running out of electricity, if we don't have electricity, we have a blackout. We're talking about rolling blackouts now. We do have a solar powered battery pack here that we sell in the office so that people do have a backup. But you are correct, Tony. You cannot be spontaneous. You gotta keep that charger with you. So those patients that are on the go should think about those options with a rechargeable. But 80% of the market share is going to rechargeable. We are more of the battery operated style, but what patients want, they get.
So one of the solutions that a friend of mine has developed, or one concern also too, is if you go on vacation, be sure and take your charger. But also my friend has developed a strategy because she's already got her hearing aids. They last 8 hours, click off. Well, I don't know what usage she has, but she now carries her backup hearing aids, her previous hearing aids, just in case it goes out, she has something. So
if they're only lasting 8 hours, I would have them go back to the manufacturer, because the batteries are warranted for the first 3 years, and most manufacturers now will say that their hearing aids should last 18 to 20 hours of use time. So 30 hours of stored time, but if they're going out after 8 hours, something might be burning through them in the hearing aid.
that's great to know. Thank you.
The other thing I just want to talk about real quick as we kind of wrap up here is over-the-counter hearing aids. Last week, Bose made an announcement. We all know Bose, a very popular name. They've gone bankrupt as far as their hearing aid division. They're closing it. So they still have product and they're trying to sell it, but we know from our side that they will no longer be manufacturing anymore. And the reason I tell you that is just to know that as big as Bose is, they can't make that division work. There's more to hearing than just putting out an amplifier or a product that kind of suppresses background noise. So even though hearing aids are expensive, know that it comes with a lot of research and development on the back end. So the Bose said that the Apple AirPods are getting better and they are going to discontinue their products. So,
Do you have another slide?
I think so. I think there's a couple.
Just that.
Just our takeaways. We hear with our brains, it can be associated with dementia. Wear them all the time, because wearing them is the number one thing you can do to help yourself, and that today's technology really keeps you so connected. Are there anybody who has any other questions? Just, we love this one from Helen Keller. Blindness separates us from things and hearing loss from people. Is there any questions, issues that you have? I mean, patients come in and talk to us all the time about some private things. Know that as audiologists, we understand that hearing is a medical concern, that it is a whole body issue, that it is a communication issue, but it's a quality of life issue. And so taking care of your hearing, starting at a very minimal level, really can complement your life in many ways. And that's what we're here to do, is to help with all of that.
Okay, so I'm looking around. I don't see any hands raised. Is there anybody who has their camera on, who has a question they want to?
Well, the other question I would even ask is, what kind of topics do you want the hearing club to offer you? We're here to be a support and make sure that the information that you're getting is accurate. But what kind of topics interest you? How could we help you feel better or more empowered about your hearing? Does anybody have any information? Any thoughts?
So as our audiology advisor, we appreciate Anne and Laura participate in all of our meetings. And certainly, regardless of who the presenter is, and sometimes we've had presenters that are not hearing aid fitters, hearing aid dispensers, and questions come up. And I appreciate that Anne and Laura are always there for us. So thank you very much for that. And so we have any questions?
I know as we kind of go into the summer, Tony, I don't know if you're going to go into your 2 months off in July and August. For the small number that are here on the call, do you guys want to have a social or any kind of Tony's going to get, hey, don't bring that up. But any kind of a physical getting together, because we know communication is physical, and there's something different when you're talking to somebody face to face and, rather than just over the screen. So, if you feel like you want to come in and talk to us, we're here, but we would love to know if even having a social during the summer, an ice cream social or something, would be something that people are interested in, like we used to do. Any thoughts?
I remember something that I wanted to go back on. You mentioned that the Performing Arts Center was looped. That's the Laguna Woods.
Yeah.
Performing Arts Center. And we're talking about the main theater. Dining Room 1 and Dining Room 2, they are looped as well. So if you have a meeting in those, that's a place where you could take your telecoil-equipped hearing aids into the room, and when the speaker is talking, just flip the switch, or if you have a remote, turn on, or if you have a program on your
An
phone,
app.
just turn it on. But the important thing is, because the other day I was talking to somebody who mentioned the Performing Arts Theater, and they were actually referring to the Sedgestrom. So just for clarification. And also for clarification, we're going to go dark. We're going to go on vacation June, July, and August this year. I need to be traveling next month, and I won't be here during our usual time. So I do want to plan some kind of off-the-cuff meetings. We'll call them happy hours, not necessarily during happy hour, but some kind of when I have time, I want to plan that, and we can talk. I actually would like to spend some time getting a little bit more in depth for people about the benefits of Zoom and how to use Zoom. I want to try to attract people who have never been on Zoom and help them with Zoom. So for Laguna Woods residents, I may be able to do that up in the PC Center where they have the Learning Center. So I'm going to talk to the PC Center about that. So, and in-person meetings. Don't know if that's ever going to happen. I know that what I would like to consider is a social event. And I was even thinking about maybe having a lunch, and it would be a catered lunch. And so you'd have to buy a ticket to pay for lunch. And I might try something like that over the summer. So it depends on how much time I have to organize it. And I'll probably send out an email with a poll on how many people might attend, so that I can gauge whether this is something that is going to work for everybody.
Well, on that same note, Tony, a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, you did have kind of a technology expo, and you had some of the manufacturers and cochlear implant manufacturers come. And is that something people would be interested in wanting to do, is to talk to some of the manufacturers? Maybe in your poll, you could ask a couple of questions like that. I could help you pull some things together.
Yes, when I did that, it was a very successful event, and the vendors, the people that were participating, I just loved what they had to say about our attendees. They said, your attendees really know and understand a lot. They asked intelligent questions, and that came from them attending meetings, learning what they didn't know, understanding what they didn't know and they know now. And sometimes people just walk in, they just don't know what to expect, and they learn a lot. So, by and large, people have a tendency to neglect their hearing. They don't think it's so important. They may have other health issues, but I think that untreated hearing loss impacts other health issues. If you would just do the minimum, make sure you have annual hearing tests. If you have hearing aids, they really should be checked and cleaned every 6 months. 6 months is a good, especially if you have tubing my mother lives in San Diego, and I go down there a lot to help her out and take care of her. And I brought her up here to spend a few days. My mother's a person who's not been wearing her hearing aids. And very much. Just when she goes out. So I brought her in to see Ann. I said, Ann, could you give these a check because they don't seem to be working right. Well, both of her ears had a significant amount of wax. Bingo, big problem right there. I will tell you that CVS does sell an earwax removal kit, so if you want to attempt doing it yourself, that's a good place to start. It's just drops that soften up the wax, and then you flush it out. Anne and Laura can help you with that in their office as well. So if you're not successful, or if you're not sure what you're doing. The other thing is, come to find out, one of her hearing aids wasn't even activated, and the other one was poorly fitted, poorly programmed. Well, when we were driving up here, my mother couldn't understand anything I was saying in the car. The noise, the wind in the car, and the tires and the wind. She couldn't. It was interfering. On the drive home, with the newly fit hearing aids, or old hearing aids fit properly, she understood every single word I said. So it's really important not to give up on your hearing aids. And if you're not seeing Anne or Laura, and you've had some hearing aids and you're struggling with them, consider popping in for an office visit to have them checked out. So, because a proper fit makes all the difference in the world. They don't program every brand of hearing aid. There are things called locked hearing aids. They obviously can't do. So what I suggest is that you call the front desk and just ask them, does Anne or Laura, do they fit, brand name hearing aids, and consider seeing them. So if they do. Okay.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. And again, we're here to answer any questions that you might have that you don't feel comfortable talking about on the screen. But hearing is a huge health concern, and it does affect everything that you do. So we wish you best communication.
I wanted to say too that I get a lot of questions. They email me, and I get my answers. If I don't already know them, I go right to Anne. So she is our audiology advisor, and Laura is available as well. So whether it's right now or if you're being a little shy, you can email me. We'll be sure you get the answers that you need.
But what I do want to say, as much as I appreciate your support, Tony, is that we do support you going back to your provider and getting the care that you need. So it's okay to come in and we can advise you as to what you could ask for. We're not asking for everybody to come and be a provider with us. We just want you to get the most out of the technology that you have, that you've invested in. So if you have questions in that regard, we'd be happy to answer them for you.
Great. Anne, thank you so much. And Laura?
Guys,
thank you so much. Yeah.
enjoy your summer off. Alan, do you have a question?
That's a hand clap.
Oh, that's a clap.
So,
Thank
yeah,
you.
down there in the reactions, you can do the applaud one too. So let me see if I can do that. Yeah, here we go.
There you go.
It just stays here for a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and I'll be in touch with you. I'm going to be sending out some newsletters since we're not going to be having a program June, July, or August, and I'll see you face-to-face on Zoom in September. So, thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.